Hello, welcome to another weekly update. Hope you're doing well. It's been a busy week. There's a lot going on at the moment. To do with all the election stuff and all the COVID stuff, and there's plenty of interesting things going on at the moment. And there's plenty to talk about this week as well. It's been a busy week for me as well. I did the last, I think probably the last speaking engagement that I'm going to do this year. It was for a new user group on the south coast of England, which was interesting for me because that's where I grew up. That's where my parents live. That was really nice to do. Talking kind of about how you build applications for Microsoft Teams. There were 3 speakers and I was the kind of third one. So it was nice to listen in as well on some really good information actually from some of the other speakers about Microsoft Search, and then also kind of really thinking about how we kind of structure ourselves, our lives, our teams, our meetings for success, which, really, really good. Anyway, the funny thing about that, so that was in the week and it was in the evening. It was a user group held in the evening, and obviously user groups are traditionally held in the evening because they take place after work, and it's where people meet up and sort of network, and it's an opportunity to learn. During this kind of lockdown period that we're in, obviously all these meetings have been virtual, and that's been a challenge for me because where I am now in this study is right next door to one of the bedrooms, and I get quite kind of enthusiastic when I'm talking. I like to kind of talk and show things, and my voice goes up, and I can't present in a dull monotone. That's, nobody could do that. People do, but it's not how I like to present. So I end up waking people up basically. So I have to find somewhere else to go, and this Tuesday was no exception to that rule. Let me quickly show you actually what it looked like, my setup. So I go to the garage. That's what I do. I go and set up a temporary workstation in the garage, and I've done this for a number of the user groups. Basically any speaking event I have in the evening. Let me quickly show you. This is what it looks like. It's what it looked like on Tuesday. It's kind of a bit crazy setup, but it works really well. Unfortunately, you can see here 2 laptops. That's because I threw away my monitor stands for these monitors that I'm looking at right now. I threw them away just before lockdown in February, March time when we were cleaning out the house. I thought I'd never use these because I've got the nice sort of clamps mounted on the desk to sort of take all the cables away and give myself some more space on the desk. Never use those stands, so I threw them away, and then they'd be really handy about now because I can't move my monitors now. So I had to have these 2 laptops side by side, one with the show notes, one actually connected in, but it worked out fine. And then I sort of made a slightly jerry-rigged lighting setup. You can just see it on the left, but here's a kind of zoom in. That's a webcam sellotaped or duct taped to an angle poise lamp for that kind of backlight, and that whole angle poise lamp, you can't see it here, is clamped to a shelf above me, kind of all upside down. So that's what I was doing on Tuesday. Interesting. Anyway, let's talk about the things that are interesting and newsworthy this week. So the first of those is a blog post I put out earlier in the week for IT admins. You can now brand the Microsoft Teams company app catalog, and this is kind of important, I think, for user confidence. So what does it mean? When you go into Microsoft Teams, the place where users go to find apps, you go to the App Store and you can see all the public apps, but if you have published any company apps, they show up there as well in a special section that says built for, like the name of your company. And it's not, if you're a user of Microsoft Teams, it's not immediately obvious that those are separate from those in the App Store. So what this does is allow you to brand that experience with your logo, your color scheme, and set some other options to really differentiate how that looks against the rest of the App Store. This is kind of one of the things Microsoft are doing to give users more confidence around downloading apps. My guess would be that they've done some user research and found that the reason people don't download apps is because they're not confident. They're a bit worried about downloading stuff from the App Store because they don't they don't know whether they can trust it or not. They don't know whether their IT admins allow them to do that sort of thing. So they're a bit unsure. So I think this is one of the attempts. There are some other attempts as well, actually, also out this month around app certification for Microsoft Teams apps, and a publisher certification program as well. And all of these seem to be driving the same thing around inspiring and kind of building user confidence to go and download apps and install apps from the Microsoft Teams App Store. So if you're an IT admin and you have apps in the company store, you should go and do this today because it makes for a nicer user experience. Go and brand the company app catalog. Okay. Something else to talk about. Oh, I've got a beer this week as well because it's Friday and it's the evening. This is a homebrew beer. If you were looking at the earlier photos of my setup in the garage, you'll have noticed the big keg of beer next to it. Nothing special, just kind of buy the kit. I don't kind of do much more than heat it up and add some sugar and let it ferment. But it's different and it's interesting. And as we go into lockdown, it may just be useful as well. So in the UK, we're in a 1 month lockdown starting this week, so that's fun. Right, so that's what I'm doing. Other things. Microsoft To Do have an API. We've talked about it before on this. That API is now in general availability. So if you've been holding off using it because it's been in beta, it's now in GA and it's rolling out, and you can get it on the 1.0 endpoint. So that's kind of interesting. You can do a whole load of create, read, update, delete CRUD operations on task lists, on tasks, and on their linked resources as well. So anything that's kind of linked to a task. So excellent. You can unlock them and do them in your production, use them all in your production apps. There's loads of documentation. There's a blog post which I'll link to. It really just gives the links to the documentation everywhere. So you can use them for that. They do say on the blog post as well that they are going to be continually improving it to make the To-Do API best in class. So there's some links there to their user voice, to Stack Overflow, and an email address as well, which is nice. So if there's things missing from the To-Do API that you wish were in the 1.0 endpoint, get in touch and tell them. They do listen to that feedback. Okay, so something else I talked about earlier in the week. I didn't do a blog post on this, but I just kind of sort of promoted it a little bit on LinkedIn. There is now a new app for Microsoft Teams. Let me share my screen so you can see this. There's a new app for Microsoft Teams to surface project and roadmap details. So this is really good if you use Microsoft Project, obviously, and use Microsoft Teams, because you can now access your information around projects and share it with people inside of Teams. There's a bunch of things you can do with the project app in Teams. You can see here. You can set up different projects. You can mark tasks as done. You've got a board. You've got the timeline, the classic Gantt chart, I think it's called. Timeline, all within Teams. That's really nice as well. It's great to see that coming. And then something called Roadmap, which I didn't really know about, which is a way of kind of visualizing multiple projects at once, and I guess is part of Microsoft Project. But it looks really nice. But anyway, whatever it is, that's also coming to Teams as well. So this, these are sort of things that you can go and get from the App Store now. Just go and install them and play with them today if that sounds interesting. So there's some more stuff coming around notifications as well. So these apps will start, pinging notifications about things that are important within a project. And it's good to see these kind of apps being built out, and it really rounds out that picture of everything, being in Teams being that hub for teamwork. It totally makes sense for project to surface inside Teams. In a way, it's been kind of a surprise it's taken this long. So really, really good to see. Okay, other things that have been happening this week. So I did recorded another session of Talking Stuff with Lindsay. So if you haven't listened to or watched any of those before, they're completely non-technical. It's just me and Lindsay chatting about some of the kind of softer stuff around, what it's like for everyone working from home, like stress, how we deal with the kind of commute between work and home when everyone's at home, and just topics like that, really well-being, kind of humans of IT style topics. And this week we were talking all about digital detoxes. Lindsay kind of brought this up actually, and just really thinking about, there's lots of advice at the moment about taking a digital detox and spending time offline and going off the grid, to sort of recharge your batteries and all that sort of stuff. And that sort of makes sense for lots and lots of people, Lindsay included, I think. But she was curious about what I did, because a lot of my hobbies are digital and they're online. So what do I do? So that's what we talked about. It was an interesting chat actually. So the video, I'll put a link to the blog post as a video. There's also a podcast, because it is just me and Lindsay talking. So you might prefer it, as an audio podcast. So you can do that as well. Yep. So that is available for you to watch as well. It was good to kind of chat through those things. I hadn't really thought about it actually until Lindsay brought it up. So it was good to kind of to talk through. All right, I think that's everything I want to talk about this week. It feels like a busy week, but there's not like loads and loads of news really. I think there's lots of other things happening in the news at the moment. Next week is going to be fun. So next week is Xbox week. I don't know. I think I probably have mentioned on here before. I've pre-ordered a Xbox Series X. I managed to get a pre-order. It should still be coming on around about the Tuesday or the Wednesday. I got an email from Microsoft, so I've ordered it from the Microsoft store. I got an email from them saying you'll get a shipping notification when it ships. We will ship it on the day, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it on the day. That sort of makes sense, I suppose. In fact, it completely makes sense if they don't ship it till the day. I'm not going to get it on the day. Anyway, I'm kind of racing to finish all the things that are on my to-do list that I want to do kind of before it arrives, and even not so much when it arrives, because that's not going to happen, but before it arrives, is set up, has downloaded all its updates, and I'm actually ready to do something with it, so that I can kind of, with a clean conscience, enjoy it properly. So I might hold off a bit. It might even be that next week I talk to you, I still haven't really touched it, so we'll see. Because there are some interesting things I want to do before the end of the year. As I mentioned earlier, I think I'm probably done with speaking for the end of for this year now. As all the conferences seem to have sort of wound up, certainly the ones that I know about, and I've got some ideas about what to do before the end of the year that I want to kind of execute on and implement. So I'm going to devote some time in the coming sort of couple of weeks to doing that, I think, and then I can sort of feel happy and that I've done what I wanted to do this year, and then sort of go and enjoy the Xbox a bit, which will be fun and interesting for me, because I'm not really a gamer. I like playing games, I just never have really kind of found the time for them. I've skipped a couple of generations. I've never had an Xbox before. I had a PlayStation 3, I think. 3. And that's all. That's what I've had. I got rid of that about a month ago, and I'm jumping obviously straight back in, but I'm going down the Xbox route this time. So yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. I love the idea of playing games. It's just the time. So I've spent the last couple of weeks trying to be very intentional about my time, and making sure I'm not wasting time just doing nothing. And it turns out if you journal your time, you do spend quite a lot of your time doing nothing. So I'm converting that time into playing games. I'm not sure that's quite the intention, but it's what I'm going to do. So anyway, regardless of what you're going to do this weekend, I hope you have a great one. If you're in lockdown like me, then enjoy tidying stuff up at home, tidying the garden, and spending time with the family and not going out anywhere. If you are able to go out, lucky you, enjoy it. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you again next time.